The halls of the shattered palace were silent when the human soldier named Ray stepped through the broken archway. Dust floated through the cold air. Once the home of a mighty alien court, it now felt like an empty shell. The banners had been torn down. The lights flickered weakly. Ray carried his rifle low, but his stance showed no fear. He had crossed battlefields worse than this. He had walked through ruins much darker. Still, he sensed something different here. Something living. Something watching. In the center chamber, he found her. The alien queen sat alone on a fallen pillar. Her crown lay beside her, cracked. Her long silver hair hung over her shoulders. Her skin, marked with faint glowing lines, looked dim, as if sorrow had drained the color from it. She did not lift her head when Ray entered. She did not speak. She only breathed slow and heavy, as if each breath was a burden she no longer wished to carry. Ray lowered his weapon and approached with caution. He had heard the report from orbit. Her own council had abandoned her. Her guards had fled. Her empire had collapsed around her. But he had also heard something else. She had not started the war between her people and the humans. It had been others in her court who pushed for it. Rumors said she had tried to stop the conflict. Rumors said she had been betrayed. Ray stopped a short distance from her. He spoke gently. "Are you hurt?" For a moment, she did not respond. Then she lifted her head, and her eyes glowed faint blue. They were void of anger. Only emptiness remained. "You should not be here, human." Her voice was soft and tired. "My people have cast me aside. Your people will see me as an enemy. There is nothing left to save." Ray shook his head. "That is not how I see it." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if confused by his words. He took another step closer. He made no sudden moves. "A message reached our base. It said you surrendered. It said you wanted peace. But no one came to accept it. They thought it was a trap, and you came anyway." She said, "I came because you asked for help." Ray replied. She stared at him for a long moment. Her gaze was sharp but fragile. She did not know whether to trust him or fear him. Her court had plotted against her for months. Friends had turned to enemies. Plans had collapsed into chaos. Each memory seemed to weigh on her like stone. Ray kneeled to show he meant no harm. "What is your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated. A queen had once said her name with pride in front of thousands. Now she said it quietly. "Lyra," Ray nodded. "Lyra, I am Ray. I am here to get you out." She let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh, but it carried more pain than humor. "There is nowhere to go. The rebels have taken the ships. My council declared me unfit to rule. They blame me for the war. They blame me for everything." Ray looked around the ruins. "Then we walk out of here and find a place where their blame cannot reach. You would risk your life for a queen who has lost her crown?" she asked. Ray stood. "I am not here for a crown. I am here for the person." Something flickered in her gaze. Not trust yet, but not despair either. He extended his hand. She stared at it as if she had never seen a gesture of kindness before. Slowly, with reluctance and fear, she placed her hand in his. Her fingers were cool and trembling. Ray squeezed gently. "Come on," he said. "We move before they return." They walked through the long corridor leading out of the palace. The walls were covered in scorch marks. Debris cluttered the floor. Ray kept his eyes forward, but he could sense Lyra's hesitation with every step. She walked as if expecting the shadows to rise up and judge her again. "Ray," she said in a low voice. "Yes, why do you help me?" He answered without pausing. "Because it is right." She seemed unsatisfied. "Your people hate mine. Not all of them. Ray replied, "And I choose what I stand for, not what someone else tells me." Lyra let the silence settle between them. It felt like the first stable thing in her life for weeks. When they reached the outer courtyard, Ray noticed movement on the far wall. A patrol, 3 armed rebels. Lyra stiffened. Ray pulled her behind a broken statue and placed a finger to his lips. The guards spoke in harsh tones. Their steps echoed loudly. If they found Lyra, they would drag her back to the council. Ray tightened his grip on his rifle. "Stay low," he whispered. She nodded. When the patrol passed, Ray led her across the courtyard. They moved through rubble, past dead machinery, and around collapsed towers. Each step carried them farther from the empire that had cast her aside. Yet Lyra felt heavier, as if every step echoed a truth she could not ignore. She had lost everything. Ray noticed her slowing pace. "You holding up? I do not know," she admitted. "Then lean on me," he said. She hesitated again, but then nodded. When she placed her hand on his shoulder, she felt warmth in her fingertips. Human body heat. Human steadiness. It steadied her heartbeat without her willing it. They reached the old landing platform beside the palace cliffs. A gust of wind blew across the open space. The sky was dim and heavy with thick clouds. Ray scanned the horizon and saw the small transport he had hidden behind a cluster of rocks. "We are close," he said. Lyra followed him toward the ship. She paused halfway across the platform and looked back at the palace. Her old home stood in ruins. She knew she would never return. The weight of that realization pressed on her chest. "Ray," she whispered. He turned. "I have failed my people." "No," Ray said firmly. "Your people failed you." She stared at him. His voice carried no hesitation. He believed his words. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. She felt a strange warmth spread across her chest. It was not hope. Not yet. But it was the absence of despair. They reached the ship. Ray opened the hatch and helped her inside. She sat in the co-pilot's seat, though she looked unsure whether she belonged there. Ray entered the pilot's seat, powered the ship, and lifted them into the sky. The palace became small below them. Ray glanced at her. "You are safe now." She held his gaze for a moment. "Am I? You are with me." He said, "I will not let anything happen to you." She looked away quickly, as if his words were too heavy to carry. The ship broke through the thick clouds and entered clear sky. Rays of light shone across Lyra's face. For the first time since he found her, she seemed less like a queen and more like a person learning how to breathe again. Hours passed in steady silence as they flew toward human-controlled space. Ray checked the sensors often. No ships followed them. No signals echoed behind them. Lyra watched the stars with a soft expression. She seemed lost in thought. "You are quiet," Ray said gently. "I am thinking." She replied, "About what?" "About what I am now." Ray turned to her. "You are Lyra. That is enough." She looked at him, confused by the simplicity of his answer. "A queen who no longer has a throne. Maybe that is a good thing." Ray said, "A throne can trap a person." Her voice softened. "Do you truly believe that?" "Yes." She studied his face. Ray was calm and sure, even though he carried scars and tired eyes. He was simple in his manner, but strong in his heart. She felt herself breathing more evenly around him. When the stars shifted and the ship glided into an asteroid field, Ray slowed their speed. The path was narrow, but he navigated with expert skill. Lyra watched his hands move over the controls. She had seen many pilots, but Ray flew with a level of calm focus she admired. "You are skilled." she said. He smiled slightly. Years of practice. She leaned back in her seat. I once commanded ships larger than cities. Now I sit in a small transport guided by a human soldier. Fate has a strange sense of humor. Ray shook his head. This is not a fall. It is a new start. Lyra turned her head and studied him again. She had been taught that humans were chaotic and unpredictable. Yet Ray was steady. Ray was constant. Ray was everything she needed at this moment, and she could not understand why. The ship cleared the asteroid field and continued toward the border of human space. Ray opened a small compartment and handed her a container of water. "Drink," he said. She held it carefully. "You serve me like a guard. I am not your guard." Ray replied, "I am your ally." She took a slow sip. The water tasted pure. "It is hard to trust allies, then trust my actions," Ray said. "Not my words." Her eyes softened. She finished the water and set the container aside. "Ray, why are you so certain about helping me?" He considered his answer. "When I was younger, I learned something important. A person alone is easy to break. A person with someone beside them can stand through anything. I am standing beside you because no one else did." Lyra stared at him for a long moment. The words settled deep inside her. She felt a warmth begin to rise in her chest, something she had not felt since before her council had turned against her. "Thank you," she whispered. Before Ray could respond, the ship alarm sounded. Red lights flashed across the console. Ray's eyes snapped to the screen. A rebel cruiser had appeared behind them. Lyra's breath caught. "They found us." Ray tightened his grip on the controls. "Hold on." He pushed the ship into evasive maneuvers. The cruiser fired. Bright bursts of energy streaked past them. Ray banked sharply, cutting between two drifting rocks. Lyra grabbed the seat. "Ray, I see it." The cruiser fired again. Ray dropped altitude. They skimmed across the surface of a wide asteroid. The enemy shot struck the rock behind them and sent a wave of debris flying forward. Ray pulled the ship upward at the last moment. Lyra watched him with wide eyes. "You are risking your life. I told you I would not let anything happen to you."